So, I'm sure the question is, did I get signed? So I've always been a fan. Was a huge fan when I was a kid. Always wanted to be a pro wrestler. I used to watch it with my brother during like the Monday Night Wars. Was a huge WCW fan, and always was like, man, I wanted to do that someday. As I grew older and went through high school and started playing more sports, I fell more in love with football and kind of fell out of love with wrestling. And was still like familiar with it and still kind of watched it from afar, but not as religiously as I did when I was 10 years old. So when I graduated college, I played football in college, and when I graduated, I worked a desk job for a year in Chicago after that, and it was fine, but I kind of had that kind of like competitive edge that there's a hole in my life to where like athletics used to fill that up with the competition and whatnot, and there wasn't that anymore. And I didn't want to just be a civilian working a desk job, so I thought, man, I feel like I'm meant to do something more. So one of the nights I just happened to be after work, I happened to be flipping through just TV channels and found Monday Night Raw was on the TV, and I was like, man, I used to love that. I used to watch that when I was a kid, like every single Monday, man. I would be glued to that TV, and I was like, man, I wonder how hard it would be to just even like train, like to try, because they make it look so easy on TV. So I Googled it and found that there was a training school that was like 3 miles away from where I was living at the time, and it was run by a former WWE or WWF wrestler from like the 90s. I was like, shoot, man, I guess that's my my sign. I'm gonna go and check them out, and I'll just go and watch practice for a day. And little did I know that as soon as I got in there, they would con me into getting into the ring, of course. And as soon as I got into the ring, man, I fell in love, and it was over from there. So the first practice I went to, got in the ring and started learning everything, and just like took to it like wildfire, and haven't really looked back since. Yeah, so Renee and we sent a box of Jamie Stanley, well, it was Nick Stanley at the time, paraphernalia, I guess, for lack of a better term. So we had like my shades, we had the stickers that I had made of me. We had like a graphic novel type booklet that was all in character and all in gimmick that we sent to them.
Said box, Exhibit A. This is what we made. We sent it to 3 locations. We sent one up to Talent Relations, I think the talent director in Stamford, so at WWE headquarters. And then we sent 2 to the Performance Center in Orlando to 2 of the coaches, directly to them. Like, so we addressed it to the coaches, and we sent it like priority with tracking, so I knew exactly like when this was gonna hit, so I could track like all the links that I have in here, so I would know when they watched it or if they watched it. We had this little booklet that we made. These are his very first professional promo pics we ever took. This was when he was Nick Stanley, not Jamie Stanley, way back in the day. And then it's just like a fun little book with his pictures. It's all in character, very deadpan, and he's just asking for a tryout. This book is approved and paid for by Nick Stanley for president and NXT. I feel like he's always been the same. Like, this is like always been him. We did the logo stickers. I'm telling you, these are like homemade. Look at, I like printed that off from Staples. And then there was a letter in here that was not in character. This is like a shoot letter. So basically, like, thanks for opening this box and reading it. Everything in the box is Nick Stanley, but this letter is all from me. And it kind of goes through his story and asking for a tryout.
So we sent it out on a Wednesday, and we saw that it got received. And then I got an email Thursday morning and wanted to see if I was available for to come down and do some extra work. So just the fact that we were able to create something and send that to them and have them be so well receptive of it and say, yeah, that's good stuff, man, let's get into talks. That, I think, was the moment that I was like, oh shoot, okay, because that was my first correspondence with WWE. So I was like, man, this could really happen. I think that I'd be bringing the gym with me with all these bags. Got my pre-workout, aminos, hot sauce, my meals for the day, and the secret sauce, Jamie Stanley post-workout cereal, baby. So yeah, that was crazy because it was after the year. It was during the pandemic. So, 2020, I flew down there, and it was in March, and then they turned us right back around and flew us right back up because they said, the world's closing down. So, have fun. We'll be in touch. So finally, February of 2021 was when I had my official tryout at the PC, and it was very much still in the middle of the pandemic. So we had to take all the safety precautions. We had to get tested every single day and make sure that we passed all that stuff. There was only like 10 people in our tryout, which before that it was, like 50 people in each tryout, but it was in a different performance center. There was kind of like a makeshift PC, which only had one ring because they had to transition everything over there because they were kind of quarantined at the PC. So it was very different. It was 3 days, a lot of cardio drills. We had promos and we had matches at the end of it. Yeah, I mean, just a huge learning opportunity. It was kind of my first one, so I was shaking in my boots, both literally and figuratively. It was really good as far as like getting the first one under my belt. A lot of people say like, the first one, a lot of people don't get signed from because it's kind of like you're just getting the jitters out. And then the second or third, or I know people that have even like had 4. They're like, that's when you start to hone it and start to get used to it and start to find out, how you can stand out and get those moments with coaches that can kind of show what they're looking for, which is, the hard work, the coachability, the leadership, and things like that. So the second tryout was a lot different from the first just because I kind of knew what I was going into. You never fully know because they can change on a dime, but the first one, it was kind of just like thrown to the wolves, so to speak, but wouldn't trade that experience for the world because I grew so much just from going there and just hanging out for 3 days. This tryout was different as far as preparation. Number one, because I had a wrestling school to train at. I was able to have a ring, full access anytime, and also willing, warm bodies to bump around with and people to help me train. So that was a huge difference. Also, I was 2 years older, 2 years supposedly wiser, 2 years more in the business to kind of know and be a little more comfortable with wrestling in general, wrestling with my character, and just 2 years more of life experience. So that was a huge plus as well. Also, having the benefit of having already been through a tryout, I knew or had a good idea, at least a little bit, about what to expect. Having said that, this tryout was a little bit different. In wrestling, there's a term called blowing up, which means like you do a lot of cardio in the ring and you're kind of gassed and you can't go anymore. So when you have hit your cardio capacity, you're called blowed up. You're blown up. During training, you do a lot of blow up drills to get you ready for in-ring cardio for a match and for all the ups and downs and picking people up and slams and jumps and falls and all the things that you take, because in my opinion there's nothing like in-ring wrestling cardio. I played college football, I played sports my entire life, I've ran races, I've done all sorts of different workouts and sprints and metcons and high intensity interval trainings and things like that. but nothing at all compares to how hard in-ring wrestling training is, to me at least. So having said that, this time around, getting ready for my tryout, I really honed in on working on training to get ready, get my lung capacity, get my cardio capacity up for those blow-up drills that supposedly they put you through during the tryouts. They did it during my first tryout. They had a whole, session dedicated to cardio, in-ring, conditioning drills. So I was working hard as heck with Renee, in the ring with me, with a whistle, just blowing the whistle and yelling at me and telling me to do down-ups and rolls and hit the ropes and all sorts of crazy stuff that prepares you for these tryouts. And wouldn't you know it, I get to the tryout and we did not do one blow-up drill the entire tryout. Go figure, because I was doing half hour every single day of just killing myself in the ring, saying there's no way they're gonna blow me up. Well, of course they're not, because we didn't even do any freaking drills. Man, so after those, you're always so up in the air, because they never really come to you and hey, you did great, here's a contract, let's sign and you start on Monday. They always are like, okay, well, we'll get back to you, and that's kind of where you always leave it. Now, I've been told that if you know you're gonna make it, they basically tell you without telling you. And the opposite is true as well. They won't say much. They'll say, hey, thank you so much. Well, we might see you down the road, blah, blah, blah. For me specifically, I had mixed feelings, because I'm my harshest critic. I'm extremely tough on myself to a fault, usually. So I was just thinking about all the things I could have done better. Oh man, I should have done this, I should have done that. So much so that I kind of undersold the good exit interview that I had with the head coach. And when I went and told Renee about, word for word kind of what was said in that meeting, she's like, holy smokes, you're about to get signed. And I was like, well, man, that'd be great. But she's like, no, listen, this is what you just told me. He said this, he said this, he said this. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. He did say that, didn't he? Just a roller coaster of emotions, because I would start remembering things oh yeah, this did happen, and they did say this, and blah, blah, blah. And then, oh yeah, but then this happened, and what about this? And I haven't heard back about this, and so it's just a constant just back and forth, up and down. Heck yeah, I'm gonna do this, and also, oh shoot, I blew it. Feeling funky fresh. Got the fresh fade. Now we need to go dye it. Like dye my hair, not go on a diet, because look at me. Well, a week later, I got a call and was informed that at this time, I would not be extended a developmental contract. So all that hard work, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the hero's journey led down to me not getting signed. They said it's not necessarily the right time. They didn't give me an outright no, but here I am, and I'm still not signed after my second tryout. But will I let that stop me? Absolutely not, because I've gone through one tryout, I've gone through 2 tryouts, and I can go through 1,000 no's, but it's that one yes that I'm looking for. I was crushed. My dreams, my plans, everything that I thought was shaping up perfectly, just like a fairy tale ending, came crashing down that day. And I was left with what's next, and it took a few days, maybe even a week or 2, to get back on my feet again. And I'm still struggling with it. I still have doubts, I still have fears and worries and anxieties. But there's one thing that I'm not confused about. It's the fact that my resolve and my will and my discipline and my tenacity and my fire and my burn, all those things have never been stronger. Great news for you guys is you are coming along this journey with me. Okay, we're gonna do this together. You're gonna see my ins and outs, my day by days, my highs, my lows, my failures, my shortcomings, my victories, my successes, every single thing. That's why I built this.
That's why I made this documentary, so you guys can be in the driver's seat with me. We're gonna do this together, because when I get signed, it's not gonna just be me. It's gonna be you and me. It's gonna be all of us. We're gonna do this together, so I can't wait to bring you guys along for this ride. Let's go make a difference.